Hello, everyone. My name is Courtney Pollock, and I am the Customer Marketing Coordinator for SWK Technologies. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar, What's New in Sage 100 version 2023, presented by Monica Boyer. Before we get started, let's go over some housekeeping items. Everyone has been placed on mute to keep the background noise to a minimum. However, throughout the webinar, you can submit any questions you have. If you'd like to submit a question, look for the questions section in your GoToWebinar, and we will answer all questions at the end of the webinar. You can also put questions in the chat box. We're also recording this presentation, and it will be distributed tomorrow to all attendees, as well as those who registered but were not able to attend. And finally, we'd appreciate participation in our closing poll and survey. With that said, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to attend this webinar. SWK is here to help you fulfill your vision of a smarter and easier way to run your business by providing you tools, support, software, and industry knowledge whenever you need it. So whether you're here researching a new solution or you're just here to learn, we'd like to encourage you to ask all the questions you have. And as a quick reminder, SWK is constantly sharing important updates and software tips and tricks on our social media channels. We encourage you to follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel where we post our recorded content like this. With that said, I'm going to hand it over to Monica to take us through Sage 100 version 2023.
Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to be presenting to you. Today, we're going to talk about what's new in Sage 100 version 2023. Here's our agenda for today. We have some global changes to discuss, as well as changes in a few various modules, such as AP, inventory management, inventory requirements planning, and production management. This update in 2023 is heavily focused on IRP and PM changes. So if you're users of those modules or users of work order and MRP that are looking to move up and switch to IRP and PM, these changes are going to be for you. There are also a few features that are available to all customers now rather than only being available to Sage 100 subscription customers previously. At the end of the session, we'll have some time for questions and answers. And if you have any questions after the call, please feel free to reach out to your SWK Sage 100 consultant or customer account manager. Let's start with the global changes that affect the entire system. First, the Information Center page has been updated with more dynamic content and announcements, as you can see in the screenshot here. A recent tab has been added at the bottom left of Sage 100. When you click it, it will display your last 12 used tasks on the left pane. Also, when you hover over a task, it will show you where that task originates from. For example, if I were to hover over receipt of invoice entry in this screen, it would pop up a tooltip that reads located in purchase order main menu. Additionally, the last tab accessed on the ribbon persists after exiting Sage 100. So for example, if the favorites tab was the last one that you used when you were in Sage 100, when you exit and re-enter, it'll be the active tab when you log in. The Select Serial Numbers by Range button has been added in the lot serial number distribution. You can select serial numbers now using a range instead of scrolling through a list to find the starting and ending serial numbers. This enhancement is carried throughout the following modules: Bill of Materials, Inventory Management, Purchase Order, Production Management, Return Merchandise Authorization, and Sales Order. There is a new security setting in Role Maintenance on the Security Options tab under Common Information that will allow or prevent users from deleting image files in the image viewer when accessing it from item maintenance or miscellaneous item maintenance. I have the viewer button outlined in the screenshot on the right in item maintenance, and when I preview the image, you'll see the X to delete the file is grayed out in that bottom little screenshot of the desk. Please note this will not prevent a user from deleting the image path from item maintenance or miscellaneous item maintenance. For those of you who use the iShip tracking tool within Sage 100, you probably already know that that tool has not been working as iShip discontinued their service. This tool has been replaced. In data entry tasks, when you click the tracking button, the tracking ID will now be used to determine which carrier the package belongs to, and you will be redirected to the appropriate website. The carriers handled automatically are USPS, UPS, FedEx, DHL, and on track. If the package ID does not belong to one of these carriers, you'll be redirected to a Google search page with the package ID already listed in the search page. And finally, in the global changes area, Crystal Reports has been updated to version 2020. This is the same version that is used by Sage Fixed Assets and Sage HRMS, so we will no longer encounter a conflict with those installed. Let's take a look at our AP changes. Up first is masking on ACH bank account and routing numbers. You now can control who sees bank account numbers and routing numbers stored in Sage 100. Only users with the appropriate security setup can view this sensitive information. The security task is located on the Security Options tab of Role Maintenance and is under Accounts Payable. An Include Electronic Payment Vendors option has been added to Invoice Payment selection in this window you see here, enabling you to segregate invoices and allowing you to select the invoices you want to pay quicker. So the options that are available in this dropdown are yes, no, and only, if you wanted to only see your electronic payment vendors. Finally, the last accounts payable change is that the DBA name under the additional tab in vendor maintenance has been renamed to 1099 name. It was a little confusing because this is the name that was being used by 1099s, but users didn't know what that field was for. So it's been changed for clarity. All right, let's talk about inventory changes. The display quantities for inactive warehouses checkbox has been added on the additional tab in inventory management options to allow you to hide inactive warehouses by company. So the options allow you to hide the inactive warehouses. So for example, in my screenshot here, warehouse 003 is inactive in my demo company. So a show hide inactive warehouses button has been added in the following locations. The main tab on item maintenance, the item inquiry quantity tab in item maintenance, and item inquiry reorder maintenance, and then the item quantity inquiry tab. This setting doesn't stick when you leave the task. It will default back to showing all the warehouses. So if you're using those inventory management options and you're displaying the quantities for the inactive warehouse, you have that checkbox selected. They will show, but you can use that little button to not show them. Otherwise, you could uncheck it for all, and then you wouldn't see them at all. Similar to that one, there's a display zero quantities for lot serial items in cost detail, and this checkbox has been added on the additional tab in inventory management options as well. You can uncheck it and not see these zero quantities at all, or you can select this checkbox to initially display lot serial items with zero quantities on the cost detail tab in item maintenance and in item inquiry. Then users can use the added show hide zero quantity button on the cost detail tab in item maintenance and item inquiry to suppress those on demand. So in that middle screenshot, you can see that all the zero quantity lot or serial numbers are listed. And then once I push the little button that's highlighted there, we're no longer seeing those quantities. Next up is inventory requirements planning, or IRP. And this is Sage's replacement for MRP if you're using work order and MRP currently. The following options have been added to the IRP options task in the setup menu. So pull in work ticket checkbox, push out work ticket checkbox, round integer unit of measure checkbox, basically all the ones on the right hand side, the base effective date on release, and the calculate build time. These fields have actually been added to help match IRP to some features clients were using in MRP. So if you were using MRP and you moved to production management, you were missing some of these features, and now they're trying to match it up so that you have all the features you need. So of course, the pull in or push out work ticket was a popular feature in MRP that was used with work order. So I think a lot of users are going to be welcoming this change. I'll explain a few of the options in a little more detail. If you select the pull in work ticket checkbox when running IRP, it will pull the work ticket required date closer in to meet the demand. When you clear the checkbox, it will keep the work ticket on the required date that it has and issue make recommendations for demands preceding the work ticket completion date. So push out is kind of the opposite of that. So it can pull in on the work ticket side as well as on the PO side, taking into account lead times. The base effective date on release date of demand checkbox would be used to base the effective date on the demand's projected release dates. For example, the sales order premise date less the build time. So that would be calculating an effective date. If this checkbox is selected, the effective date will not be displayed when you're running inventory requirements planning because it's going to calculate based on those factors. If you clear this checkbox, then you would use the effective date field that's right on the screen in IRP instead, and it wouldn't use the calculation. The calculate build time for make items would be used to select a method for calculating our make items. So if you want to calculate them, so you would select default build time, that's one of the options, to use the following hierarchy to determine the actions required for scheduling make items. So this is like a lead time. The item vendor lead time would be used. If the item vendor lead time is 0, the entry at the default build time field will be used in inventory requirements planning. So lots of crazy options there, and if you have any questions on those, please let us know. All right, in the inventory requirements planning task, the following fields have been added, providing options for the IRP generation process. So the effective date field, that's the one that we just talked about. That one will be available if the checkbox is checked in the options. And then we can include sales order quote checkbox, that's there as well. Explode, so you could include a quote in your demand if you wanted to. Explode make action field, create work ticket with materials from field, and the default lead time days, default build time days, and advanced arrival days. So I'll explain a couple of those in a little more detail too. With explode make action, you would select an option to determine how the excess demand for bills with a procurement type of make to order or make to stock are processed. So you would select parent item to only see the bill and not explode any levels on a multi-level bill. Or you would select the parent and component items to explode all levels of a multi-level bill. When this option is selected, you will see the bill and all the required components to make the bill in IRP. So you may have, it may be suggested that you make some of those components for the bill or buy some of those components for the sub-assemblies as well. Even if the inventory requirements planning module is not integrated with production management or purchase order, you can now run IRP and see the demand. So previously, if it wasn't integrated, you couldn't see the demand. All right, so once you run your IRP and you're in your items to produce and items to purchase screen, you can now choose to view summary information for items with pending actions. So pending actions means that IRP has calculated that you have to either push out or pull in a work ticket or purchase order to meet your due dates. This would be available only if you have the pull or push options selected in IRP options. Item detail will now display the recommended action, action date, and required date to meet the demand for each detail record. So you can kind of see that in the third screenshot over on the right. It's telling us we need to make this sooner than we had planned. And you'll see that there was a date required over on the left-hand side. And that date and this action date is actually the same in this case, but a lot of times it'll be a different action date. Here's a good one. In Library Master, Task Scheduler, that's a mouthful, you can now schedule the IRP generation process. The frequency and time to run the process is completely customizable. This will allow you the flexibility to run the generation after business hours or overnight. We have seen cases where it takes a fair amount of time to run IRP if clients have a lot of data, so this should be very helpful. Inventory requirements planning inquiry has been added to the inquiries menu, and you would use this task to view purchase or production information for an item, and it'll be based on the last completed IRP generation process. So you can see what ran the last time. Our reports menu has also been added along with the following reports to inventory requirements planning. Action by vendor report, inventory requirements planning report, projected demands report, and work ticket and sales order demand report. The action by vendor report will include the ability to select warehouse code and then print the warehouse code on the report. The standard unit of measure also prints on the report. The projected demands report has had the following updates. A fiscal calendar year option has been added, enabling you to print the report for a selected year. And when the consolidate customers checkbox is selected, if item projected demands are included in the consolidation, the quantity sold column on the report displays the item's total quantity sold. If item projected demands are not included in the consolidation, the quantity sold column displays the sum of the consolidated customers' quantity sold. Moving on to production management. Enhanced scheduling features have been added throughout the production management module to provide you with more flexibility and functionality. I'll review these enhancements next. They are similar to the scheduling features that work order had. So if you were missing some of those and have moved on to production management, these will be helpful for you. In PM setup, production management options, a schedule tab has been added with the following options. You would select the Enable Enhanced Scheduling checkbox to use the forward or backward scheduling method to schedule work tickets. If you prefer the basic scheduling, you would clear the Enable Enhanced Scheduling checkbox. Basic scheduling is the functionality that was in previous releases of production management. The maximum number of months to schedule field has been added. So how far out do you want to schedule? And you can define default work center closures that will be used for all work centers here. So you'll see in this area they have, company holidays and things like that where you're closed, so that scheduling takes that into account. Activity code maintenance in PM setup has the following enhancements added for scheduling. The first one is calculation method. You would select the calculation method to use for scheduling this activity, either hours per activity, if it takes more than an hour to complete one activity, or activities per hour, if more than one activity is completed per hour. And you can also use a fixed time if you prefer. When you create a work ticket template, these settings will be forwarded as defaults when choosing the activity. Ignore queue time has been added, so you would select this checkbox to ignore any scheduled queue time assigned to the work center, and you would clear this checkbox to use the scheduled queue time assigned to the work center in work center maintenance for this activity. Work ticket template maintenance in production management setup has added the following enhancements, also to accommodate the enhanced scheduling. You will also see the calculation method here, and hours per activity, activities per hour, and number of hours, same as we saw over on the other side. This is based on the calculation method selected in activity code maintenance, so it'll come over, but it can be changed. And then overlap percent would be where we would enter the percentage of overlap used to determine when this step is scheduled to begin in relation to the previous step. So if this step overlaps the prior step, we can put that overlap in there, and scheduling will take that into account. You can ignore queue time, so you can ignore or use any scheduled queue time assigned to the work center in work center maintenance for this activity. So you're basically overriding those on a template by template basis. And for those work order users, the work ticket template is your routing. So in your routings, you could override for individual routings the standard settings for that activity or work center. Work center maintenance and PM setup has the following new enhancements added. So enhanced scheduling fields have been added, the queue time in hours, efficiency percent, number of workers or machines, and a minimum scheduling time period. You can set up the number of hours a work center is available for operation each day of the week in the available hours field. Closures for specific work centers can be set up. So these closures in work center maintenance will override those that we set up in our options. Click copy from up at the top there if you want to copy information from an existing work center when creating a new one. And you can also click apply to copy available hours and closures from one work center to another after you set up one. In work ticket entry, the following changes have been made for enhanced scheduling. On the schedule tab, the schedule button has been added to access the new schedule work ticket window. It's the one outlined in red in the left-hand side there. In the schedule work ticket window, you can select forward or backward scheduling method to determine when each step of a work ticket is started and how long each step takes to complete. So obviously backward would be going backward from the production due date, and forward would be going from the production start date. You would use forward scheduling to enter the start date, like I just said, and it'll calculate forward. On the schedule tab, the manually scheduled checkbox has been added. So you'll see that in the top left. I outlined it in red. It's grayed out here because I'm in the schedule work ticket tab, but that would allow you to override and manually enter the production start date and due date for a work ticket. So if you're using enhanced scheduling and it thinks you're going to use the enhanced scheduling, but you need to override it for a particular work ticket, you can. Also, in work ticket entry on the steps tab, which is the screenshots on the right, the following fields have been added to the secondary grid. Ignore queue time, overlap percent, production queue date, scheduling method, scheduling hours, scaling method, scaling factor, and extended time. So you can see kind of how it's doing all the calculations for that scheduling. You can now review detailed step information on the work ticket history inquiry scheduling tab by selecting a step in the list box and clicking the additional information. So I just clicked the step 00, well, lots of zeros, but the 0 step, and click that button, and this is the additional step information. You'll see there's a scheduling area that will show you all the information by step. Work center capacity inquiry has been added to the inquiries menu. You would use this task to review commitments against work centers in 3 formats: daily, weekly, and detail. You'll see the daily screen is the one I have up on the left right now. Additionally, a scheduled capacity report has been added to the reports menu, and you can use this report to print the commitments against work centers in 3 formats also: daily, weekly, and detail, if you prefer to see the data in report form. You'll notice in the screenshot on the left, there's some red there, so it's looking like we're a little bit over capacity at certain times, so you can kind of see graphically how your scheduling is going. This is a good one. A lot of clients have been asking for this, so I think everybody will be happy with this feature. In work ticket transaction entry, when you're creating a materials transaction, so you're issuing materials to a work ticket, you can now import available material lines with remaining quantity to issues in bulk to the lines tab. So this speeds data entry, of course, because in the previous versions of production management, you would have to select, you could look at a list of items that the work ticket needed to have issued, and you could select individually each one from there. But if you wanted to select it a bunch at a time, it took amount of time to select each one individually. So when you go to the lines tab, you'll get the prompt that you see on the left-hand side, and you have the option to select all, click yes to bring in all the materials, no to do it manually like you had to before, or selection to select them. So if you click that selection screen on the right-hand side, you can go ahead and check the issue box for all those parts that you would like to issue, and they'll come in automatically to your transaction. A lot serial history button has been added in multiple locations. I'm showing it here in work ticket history inquiry. You would hit the button outlined in red, and the second screen will display showing you what lots or serial numbers were issued to the work ticket. This also is available on the inquiry tab of the screen for the materials and completion views, as well as on the inquiry tab in work ticket entry. On the materials tab in work ticket entry, we've added a recalculate material budgets button, enabling you to recalculate budgets for the step assigned to the selected material line. all the material detail lines assigned to the same step will be recalculated. So if you click that, it's going to do all of those. Like in this example, there's a bunch of materials for step 40. So if I was on one of those lines, it would recalculate all of step 40. And then you can click the arrow next to the button and select recalculate material budgets for all steps to recalculate them, obviously, for all of the steps. In the work ticket entry copy from window, so if you're trying to copy a work ticket, create a new work ticket and copy from another one, the production start date field has been added to simplify the process of copying a manually scheduled work ticket. During the copy process, the system will calculate the number of days between the start date entered here and the source work ticket start date. The difference between the dates will be used to automatically adjust all of the scheduling dates in the work ticket steps as they are copied. So kind of trues up those dates when copying. A new option has been added in production management options, enabling you to create a work ticket using the materials from the bill, work ticket template, both the bill and work ticket template. So previously you would say, I put all my materials in my bill. So when you created a new work ticket, it would source the materials from the bill and the steps from the work ticket template. Now, if you have materials in your work ticket template as well as your bill, you could source from both if you would like to as well. Oh, you can also select to be prompted as to which way you want to go. So this option is, so your options are bill and template, bill, template, or prompt. And last but not least, in production management, there's a few other miscellaneous features. You can now add a scrap percentage for each item on the materials tab in work ticket template maintenance. Previously, we only had the yield percentage on the header. This is another feature that work order had that production management didn't initially have. You can add on-the-fly activity codes and work centers when you're in work ticket class maintenance, work ticket template maintenance, and work ticket entry, as long as you have the security option to do so in your role in Library Master. The relieve WIP based on percent complete checkbox has been added on the work ticket entry header tab and the work ticket class maintenance tab. You would select this checkbox to use the prorated cost for WIP when entering a partial completion and work ticket transaction entry. So if you issued all your materials, let's say you auto issue your materials or all your materials were already issued to the work ticket, this would allow you to prorate that WIP when you're doing those partial completions. Right now, I have been advising customers to use the budget when they do a partial completion so that it gets close to the cost and then it trues up at the end. But this would make it a little easier to just spread that WIP across all the closings, all the completions. All right, so finally, there's some features that have been made available to all users that were previously only available if you were on a subscription licensing plan. So you're either on a perpetual licensing plan or a subscription. So if you were on perpetual, these features weren't available before, but they are now. In Journal and Register Viewer, or actually you have access to Journal and Register Viewer in multiple places throughout the program. So you'll see a Journal and Register Viewer button where you can click to directly go to Paperless Office Journal and Register Viewer for that journal or register. If you had previously, if you were on perpetual licensing, you would have to actually go to Paperless Office to find that information. You now have some data file display and maintenance enhancements, such as selecting a subset of fields from the table to be displayed. You can define filters, apply them to one or more fields to limit the rows displayed in the key screen. A lot of different features in there. If you use data file display and maintenance, that's kind of a view of your tables if you're not sure what that is. It's a more technical kind of tool within Sage 100. And then map service. An option has been added on the preferences tab in user maintenance, allowing you to select which map service to use when you're using the map buttons in Sage 100. Your options are going to be Google Maps, Bing Maps, or MapQuest. And then in Task Scheduler, you can email reports printed from a Task Scheduler job. So essentially you could set up a report or set up a task to run a report and email it to someone. And that's what that one is related to. Okay, those are all the new features in 2023, and I'm going to turn it over to Courtney for a poll and questions.
Hi, Monica. Thank you. That was a great run through. Lots of new features to go through. And as Monica said, we're going to do a quick poll and then go right into Q&A. So on your screen will pop up, and this is just asking if you would like to be contacted about upgrading your Sage 100 to version 2023. So if you're interested in that update. And in the meantime, go ahead and get your questions in. We've already had a few come in throughout the presentation. So you can put your questions in the questions section or the chat, and I will go ahead and get those asked to Monica. We're going to leave this open for just a few more seconds. Thank you to everyone who's answered so far. Okay, and let's dive right into Q&A. So Monica, the first question I have for you actually is about upgrading. So what is the process to upgrade from Sage 100 version 2022 to Sage 100 2023? And I'm not sure, which type of subscription they're on.
That's okay. That's a great question. So it would be the same. If you've done an upgrade process before, it will likely be the same. Typically, we're going to install the new version. It's a parallel install. So we would install 2023 parallel to 2022. You would still keep working in 2022 while we did that. We would install it, get the version situated with your data, and then we would allow you a little testing period in 2023. Once you test 2023 and you think everything is good and you're ready to go, we would refresh the data in there from 2022 to 2023, and we would go live on 2023. That's usually the process. Occasionally, if I would say we would use that process if you're using production management, but if you weren't using production management or work order, I should say, for older people, people with older versions, we could potentially entertain not doing a test upgrade and just going live into the new version, but we don't do that too often.
Okay, great. And, we haven't had any other questions come in so far, which is a little atypical for these ones where we're diving into new features. So I want to give people just another moment if there is a question out there that they're taking a second to get in. Not to put you on the spot, Monica, but is there anything else you want to highlight from the new version?
I would say that the scheduling and production management, those kinds of things in the IRP changes are very detailed, and I'm guessing that's why we don't have tons of questions yet, because it might be a little overwhelming. But just feel free to reach out and have us show you, have your consultant show you the changes or how it would affect your business.
Yes, definitely. So we're probably going to go ahead and wrap up here because we hadn't had any other questions come through. I'm still going to give it a few more moments. But if you do have questions or, you're just taking in all the things, all the new features that we just went over, please reach out to your SWK rep, email us at info@swktech.com. We'll make sure to connect you or, respond in the closing survey that you'll get and let us know that you want to be followed up with and just get some more information about these features, and we'll be sure to reach out. Oh, okay. Monica, I do have a quick question for you. So the question is this a 64-bit system?
So it is a 64-bit system. As of 2022, Sage offered a 32-bit and a 64-bit system. So you can use 64-bit.
Okay, great. So I think I'm gonna call that our last question, unless I see one pop up here in the next second or so. But thank you everyone for taking time out of your day to be with us, and we will send the recording of this so you can go over everything in detail tomorrow afternoon, and it will also be available on our YouTube channel. So thank you and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.